we've been talking about finding central measures and measures of dispersion, and we've been doing those by hand. Let's take a look and just kind of review what those even are. So our central measures are mean, median, mode, and our symbols for those are mu, MED. That's a mu, not a U. And for dispersion, spread, we have range, we have variance, and we have standard deviation. And our symbols are here. Now, the symbols that I've written down are for if we have a population, meaning that our data represents all the possible data, as opposed to a sample. So these symbols that I'm writing up here now, X bar and S squared and S, those are the symbols for each of these if our data represents a sample, meaning a portion of the entire data. So what we've done, we've used formulas in order to find each one of these things. And if we have a large amount of data, like I do right here, then that could get really tiresome. The formula is really long. So we want to use the calculator in order to do most of the work for us. So I'm going to take a look and find all of these things using the TI. So this video focuses on how to use the TI. So here's my calculator, and I need to put this data into the calculator so that it can do the work. So I'm going to put it in a list. Now, we can take a look at what lists we have by doing second and pressing stat, and we see the list that we have. But that's not going to let me actually edit those lists. So I'm going to second quit out of there. I'm just going to press stat. And most of the stuff that we'll do for statistics are in here in this stat button. So I want to edit. So I'm going to go ahead and go to edit. And if these lists aren't actually here, then I'm going to need to repopulate them. And probably the fastest way to do that is going to be just to reset the calculator. So list one. So we want to be careful when we're deleting stuff that we don't actually delete the entire list. So our list one is just going to be this data. So I'm going to start typing in the data, 3, 10, and I know that those numbers are pretty small there. Can't help that. I can make the calculator bigger, but then I couldn't fit it on the screen, so there's that. And I'm just getting all of this data in. Now I expect 20 pieces of data. So I know if I don't get 20 pieces of data, somewhere along the line I have skipped something. So it does take a little while to put in all of it, but in the end, it'll be shorter than writing the formula out and doing it by hand. Okay, so the data is in, hopefully correctly. So now it hasn't calculated anything for me. So I'm actually going to press stat again. And now, instead of editing, I want to actually calculate something. So I'm going to go over to calculate. And we're going to do one variable statistics. So we're going to press that. And our list is the list that has the data. It's list one. But you would put there whatever list you want and to put a different list. So if I wanted to do a frequency list right here, I would press second list, and then I would select one of those. But I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to calculate one variable statistics. List one, good. Frequency list. Leave it blank. We don't have a frequency list. Now, if for some reason your version of TI throws you an error here, you can put a 1, meaning they're all ones, but I'm pretty sure you need to leave it blank. We're going to press calculate, and it's going to bring up this list of stuff. This first one, X with a little bar on it, that's our mean. So our mean is 17. So I'll write these over here. Our mean is 17.1. And this means sum of X. That means if I added them all up, wait a minute. how did I get a 26? What? Oh, that's a wrong calculator. Like what happened? Our sum here is 342. If we were to add up the data, this n tells us that we have 20 pieces of data. That's good because that's what I have, 20 pieces of data. So this little sx, that's our standard deviation if it was a sample. But we're mainly interested in this one, the 10.3. So our standard deviation is 10.3. Now, if we wanted our variance, we would square that. So our variance is 10.3 squared, whatever that happens to be. Min x, that's our smallest x value. Q1, our lower quartile. Our median is 14. There we go, median 14. And our third quartile, or our upper quartile, is 22. So I could use this min x, this Q1, this median, this Q3, this max x to do a box and whisker plot if I wanted. And there we have all our information. So our mode, I don't think this gave it to us, but our mode would be, looks like it's 10 because that happens the most frequent. All right, so now on this example, I have a table. Now, I don't really care about the probability right here, though we did find those probabilities. Since I'm using the calculator, I can do the data and the frequency and have no problems. So I'm going to quit out of this, and I'm going to go back to stat. I'm going to go over to edit. Now, I'm going to have to delete this list, and perhaps there's a faster way to do this than I'm aware, but I'm just going to press delete a bunch of times. If there's a faster way, you could comment it under this video. But anyways, right there, I deleted it. Oh, it's still pressing delete. Okay, it's freaking out. Okay, so now I'm going to type in this data. Just be careful you don't actually delete the list itself. So 170, 180. Now notice, I am actually going to need to use list 2 this time because I actually have a frequency for these. You probably can't see me hitting the enter or the 0. It is cut off of the screen, but I am pressing those. Okay. Now list 2 is going to be our frequencies. So in this case, 4, 10, 6, 3, 2, 1, 4, 2. All right, so I have my data in, and again, I'm going to press stat, go over to calc. I'm going to do one variable. And my list 1 is my list that has the data. But now I actually have a frequency list. And I'm going to tell it by pressing second stat, which tells us, brings up our list. And I'm going to select list 2. Now, another way that you could put that in is by doing second, and then down here on your number keys, you have these little blue second functions. And we could do second list 2 right there a little bit faster. And we'll calculate. All right, so X bar, that's our mean, is 208. So our mean, 208. And we don't need our sum. Here's our standard deviation, 41.1. We have 32 pieces of data, apparently, assuming I typed it in correctly. Min x, so that's the smallest value. So if I wanted the range, I'd take the max x, and the min-x and subtract them, and I'd get 130. So my range is 130. And again, I could take this min-x, this Q1, this median, this Q3, this max-x, and use that information to make a box and whisker plot. Our median was 190. Now, to get the mode, I take a look at my data, and 180 happens 10 times, so my mode is 180. Now, if I wanted my standard or my variance, I take my standard deviation and I square it. Okay, we have one more example to go over, and that's what if I have a probability distribution. So I don't care about the frequencies right here. I can use the probability. Now, if I had the frequencies, it's just as easy to put that in. It really doesn't matter which I use. The calculator doesn't care. So I go back to stat, and I'm going to edit my list. And I'm going to delete the data that I have there. I am sure there's a faster way. I just don't want to wreck this while I'm recording. So I'll just do it slowly. Do it the faster way if you know it the faster way. Okay, so here's my data. 16, 20, 26, 30, 40, 50, 60. And now in list 2, we'll put our probabilities. 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, 0.25, 0.05, 0.08, 0.02. Now, before continuing, these probabilities, if I add them all up, I should get a 1. Meaning 100% of the data. So we want to make sure our probabilities add up. Now it's pretty much the same. I put in list 1's my data, list 2 is my probabilities. I go to stat, I go over to calculate now, one variable statistics, and list 1 is my data, list 2 is my probabilities, so I'm just going to press enter a bunch of times, and my calculator gives it to me. My mean is 26.1. And our median, I'm going to find that. Our median is 23. Now our mode is apparently 16. Or no, is 16. So our mode is 16. Now let's get our standard deviations, 10.96, so 11. So if I wanted my variance, I would square that. I'm not actually going to do it. You can figure that out. And just to say it one more time, I could use this right here, this min-x, this max-x. Now, if I subtract those, I do get 44 for my range. And I do want to, just for ease of reading, put my central measures on one side and organize my dispersion on another side. But anyway, I could do these to make a box and whisker plot if I wanted. There's the whiskers, 16 and 60, my lower quartile, my upper quartile, and my median. Everything I need to know is right there.